Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're doing something different. I feel like I say that kind of a lot because I do lots of random stuff over here. But it's October, it's spooky month. Do you like my shirt? It doesn't really sit where it's supposed to. These are supposed to be cupping my boobs, but they keep falling down. It's spooky month. I wanted to do some spooky, scary stuff. I love Halloween and I love shit like this. I think it's really interesting. So today we're talking about making a deal with the devil. Super casual, I know. I did lots of research and I just want to kind of talk about it. I'm not recommending it to anybody, that's for sure. But yeah, let's just go ahead and get into the video. The devil, Lucifer, Beelzebub, Antichrist, father of lies, Satan. We've all, I think, for the most part, probably have heard of him. He's in at least some form of him, or what he represents is in some religions, most anyway, religions and cultures. So we should be pretty familiar with him. Most known in Christianity. That's like the form and story of the devil I think most people are familiar with. So it's said that Lucifer was a beautiful angel who got cast down to hell because he defied God, and he's supposedly the ruler of hell. There's some question about whether that's the truth or not, or he's just lurking it down there. I don't know. Other religions and cultures teach of an evil being, you know, fighting against the forces of good. So there's the actual being of Satan, and then there's just the evil fighting against good, which is basically what Satan does, right? So in the Islamic religion, they have a being called Shaitan. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. I'll put the spelling here. Who is also thought to have rebelled against God. In Judaism, Satan is a verb, refers to a difficulty or a temptation to overcome instead of an actual being. Buddhism, this one's interesting. So Mara, I'm not sure if I'm saying that again correctly, I'll leave the spelling here, is a demon who tempted Buddha away from his path of enlightenment. To the religious, non-religious, he's usually synonymous with fear, punishment, negativity, immortality. We all heard of him, or at least have a thought of him and what he represents. So, making a deal with the devil. This is interesting. So the deal is you offer your soul in exchange for a favor. That favor could be power, wealth, beauty, youth, you name it. There are some stipulations and rules of what you can and can't wish for. Being, you can't wish for immortality because then he would never get his end of the deal. Duh. I think that he can't change the past. I don't think that's in his power. And there might be a couple more. I didn't write them down, but pretty basic stuff that he can't change. I don't think he can change. I think he can't change another way of another person's thinking who's not part of the deal, but I could be wrong. It's also believed that some people make this pact not for anything in return, just to show their devotion to Satan. So people who would do this would be more than likely Satanists or people of that kind of mind thinking. So they're selling their soul not in exchange for anything, just to show their devotion. So there are some deals that have been made throughout history, supposedly, that I guess we think that they sold their souls. I don't really know, or claim to have sold their souls. These are all very old cases. I don't know any. I mean, we all have some suspected ones. I don't know any for sure. But it said like anybody in the Illuminati has sold their soul. Don't know much about that, and I didn't really do any research on that for this video. But I do have 3 here that I want to mention from a long past. The first one is Johann George Faust, and he exchanged his soul for unlimited knowledge and worldly pleasure. But the next one we have is Jonathan Moulton, and he exchanged his soul in return for having his boots filled with gold coins when hung by the fireplace every month. Very specific. They say you should make your wish very specific because, I mean, he's the king of deception, so he'll use your words against you, give you not quite what you want, but it's still what you technically asked for, type of thing. And then the last one, which is one of the most famous, is Robert Johnson. He supposedly met Satan at a crossroads, and he signed over his soul to play the blues and gain mastery of guitar. So he did it for his career. And his is the most popular because his was at a crossroads, and a lot of people believe that that's where you make your deal with the devil. So here's how to do it. Not quite specifically, because I don't want any of you to go and do it, but I mean, if you really wanted to do it, you could do the research yourself. So you can do it orally or writtenly. I don't think that's a word, but orally or written. I think a lot of people do it orally, but either way. So orally, you need to invoke him, conjure him, rituals, and then once he's there, you speak what you want, make the deal. Written, you do the same thing. You have to conjure the demon, spirit, devil. Some people say you do the devil specifically. There are also demons that you can invoke for whatever your wish, that like curate to what your wish is. Don't know much about that. You'd have to do more research, but you can invoke a certain demon to do the deal with. And then once you have your demon there, you write down what you want and sign it with your blood. Spooky. And according to demonology, there is a specific month, day of week, and hour to conjure a demon, the devil. I don't know much about that. I didn't do that much research. I think there's also a certain moon cycle that's the right time to do it, but I mean, you can do the research if you're curious. The next thing is crossroads. So it's kind of up in the air about this one. A lot of people say you have to go to the crossroads that Robert Johnson went to when he made his deal, because they believe that the Satan is hanging around there looking for souls. I don't really know. But they do have where they think that he made his deal. You can find it on the internet. I think it's in Mississippi or Missouri. I think it's Mississippi though. So they have that specifically on the internet if you want to go check it out. But they also say that any crossroads that's very deserted, very empty, not a lot of going on around it, is where you do it. So you're gonna have to be alone. You cannot be with anybody else for any of the rituals as well. You should be alone, because he's not gonna want to come with other parties hanging around. It just looks like a trap, right? So always be alone. You should bury a box or bring a box. Some say bury, some say just bring it, have it with you. Burying a box contains graveyard dirt, a black cat bone, specifically a hind leg bone. Scary shiz. Apparently you can get this from an occult shop. I've never been to a occult shop, don't know anything about that. They also say that it's hard to get because a lot of them don't sell it because they know it's for selling your soul. So and you also need a drop of blood, and there are other things that they say you need. I didn't write them all down because I didn't want to get too specific, but you can look it up if you want to. And supposedly if you bury the box or just bring the box, he'll know, the demon or Satan will know that you're there for this specific reason because of the things you brought. So they'll show up, and this is when you make your deal. So some rules or steps or things to do / avoid. Keep in mind that some souls are worth more than others. So if it doesn't work, the ritual doesn't work, or he doesn't show or come, it could be because he's not interested in your soul. And there are ways to make him more interested. It's not being an evil soul. It's not about killing babies and harassing people. It is about being pure and good. And they also say, this is interesting, that the devil will come to you if you have a pure enough soul and he wants your soul. He will come to you and try and make a deal. But for the everyday person, you can try and make your soul look attractive to him, so he'll be like, okay, I want your soul, right? It should also never be done with a last resort kind of attitude. So you should never be in the mindset of, oh, I have nothing going for me anyway, I'll just sell my soul to the devil, who cares? Because that doesn't make your soul look appeasing to him. I mean, he doesn't want, he's like, you don't want it, I don't want it. So keep that in mind. Also, the business deal should be done between equals. So you should feel, you should be polite. It should be done kind of like you would make a deal with anybody else. And you should also never try and trick him, because he will catch on and he will not be happy about it. So keep that in mind as well. Yeah, apparently there have been people who have tried to like trick or trap the devil. Don't do it. I wouldn't recommend it. I don't think you should do any of this. But also, it's really interesting. A lot of people would assume that Satan would show up, you know, with his looking scary as shit, you know, his little trident. And is it called a trident? I think. Not sure. Devil horns, scary as shit. He's not going to show up in his scariest form. He will show up looking like what you find beautiful and attractive and comfortable with. So for me, he'd probably show up as some good looking dude. For you, he might show up as a beautiful woman. Something that's not going to scare you away. I mean, it doesn't really make sense for him to show up scary, because you're like, oh, I don't want to sell my soul to you, you look terrifying type of thing. It doesn't really make sense. So he's going to show up appeasing. You're like, yeah, I'll give you my soul. Like, that's not scary. And I think that's everything I wanted to cover. So I'm sure there are other ways, and like I said, you can look up the rituals and conjurings and ish with that. Don't know much about that. I didn't do that much research. I think the crossroads is really interesting, and all of this is just supposed. We don't really know. I think that's like one of the most interesting things about this, is that you don't really know if it's real. I mean, I never really thought about people actually having sold their souls to the devil before I did this research. It doesn't seem like something people would actually do, in my opinion, but it is a thing if you believe it. It's kind of one of those things where it's like, do you believe in an afterlife? Do you believe in soul selling and God and demons and devil and hell? So it's interesting. Me personally, I believe in it. I think it's probably a lot harder than it sounds to sell your soul, I believe. I mean, you'd have to really want it, and I think he'd have to really want it. So I don't know. It sounds kind of hard. I mean, I think it would be harder than it sounds, because it doesn't sound that hard if you really wanted to do it. I would never do it. That sounds scary, and I don't want anything enough to sell my soul for eternity. I don't want to burn in hell for eternity because of what? A little bit of fame while I'm alive? Like, no. I'm good. Thanks. Let me know in the comments if you guys liked this video, thought it was interesting. I want to do more like it, especially for this month. I was thinking maybe one about Satanism, because that's pretty interesting, or even possessions. I also want to do like a 3 a.m. challenge, one that I don't have to do alone, one I could do with like my mom and Brittany or somebody. I think that would be a really fun video. Just let me know if you have any recommendations for videos, anything you want me to talk about, if you liked it, and what you think. Do you believe in selling your soul? Would you do it? Let me know in the comments. And thank you so much for watching. Bye!